First and foremost, we want to welcome each and every one of you guys for attending our session today. Hopefully you can find some little tidbits of useful information throughout this presentation. And, hopefully you guys are also enjoying your first start, at World. If you guys haven't noticed, in the electrical realm, this is a great year at SolidWorks World. We have a pretty full track with various options for you guys throughout. So hopefully, not only through this class, but any other additional electrical classes you go, you guys find a lot of value in that. So with that, we are here today to take a look at some tips and tricks. So we had creatively titled it, or should I say Claire creatively titled it SWEaster eggs. So if everybody's familiar what Easter eggs are within various movies, video games, etc., that's what we're going to focus on. So the title of today...
Don't give it all away.
Right, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've done been giving it away. So the title of today's presentation is SWEaster eggs, features hidden in plain sight. So it should be a fun, lighthearted presentation. That was the intent of a topic like this. My name's on the slide, and technically I don't think it should be. We originally put this in as an hour presentation and then got told it's a 30-minute. So due to that, Claire is really going to be the driving force behind this. But I thought, I'd kick it off. I had the opportunity to see Claire give a similar presentation at one of her events, and I thought it was, again, a lighthearted, fun way, to kick off, an electrical track. Try to keep it not so much dry, and I'll add a little humor and fun. So that's the intent of this presentation is, kind of a lighthearted engagement. So with that being said, we'll jump into kind of our key takeaways that we hope, after the completion of this class that, you guys will have picked up little nuggets throughout that can help you be more efficient in your day-to-day operations. Just little things that, whether you were self-taught or went through training and it's been some time, that maybe are missed, and just, again, little gems. Even if it's only you pick up one or two throughout this entire presentation, that's still, a value and a benefit. So, again, all the intent of working in this and implementing the software and using the tools to get more automated and more efficient at our day-to-day tasks. And so we're going to focus on that. Being the key item is let the software do more work than you. And what can we do within there, configure within this environment to allow that? And then lastly, we challenge you guys to stay curious and really, to challenge your thought processes and your workflows and processes in your organization, always looking for opportunities to better that process and add, again, more efficiency to your workflows. So a little introduction. My name is Thomas Smith. I'm a solutions consultant, previously titled a technical manager for SolidWorks. I focus solely on the electrical products, so that would be our schematic offering, our 3D tool, and also our PCB offerings. I am based out of Denver, Colorado, and within my role, I support our VARs and our customers in the Central and West Territory. So basically everything west of the Mississippi up to Canada falls under my responsibility. And again, my main role is to work with our partners in our VAR channel to help them enable and support you guys. So again, it's a pleasure. As I said, I've had the ability or the opportunity to work with Claire over the past year. And, again, she is really great at her job. She is very funny. I think you'll learn through that as we go through this. And again, the intent is just to have fun, and with that, I think I'm going to shut up and let Claire take it from here.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas. Well, as Thomas alluded to earlier, this is something tips and tricks with a little bit lighthearted fun, and that's how I like to approach pretty much all the electrical topics. So I am an applications engineering director and also the electrical product manager at GSC. I have a background. I'm an electrical engineer, went to school for it, did some time in industry, decided that I talked too much to be an engineer, so then this was a really awesome opportunity to get. I'm a recovering IT manager as well. If there's anybody else in the field here, you understand what I mean. And also electrical puns. It just happens every once in a while. So if you need me to clarify something for you, we'll be okay. All right? So this is titled Easter eggs. So just watch a little bit of video here for me, okay? All right, who found the Easter egg in there? Who found the Easter egg?
There was a hidden
There's a hidden Easter egg in there.
in that video clip. Did anybody catch that? And we are giving away prizes for the answerer of this.
Yeah,
Anybody?
I'll help you a little bit. Does anybody see the Easter egg now? There you go. Awesome. For those of you?
Congratulations, sir.
Yes, congratulations. All
Obviously, Harrison Ford, Star Wars reference in there.
right, there's one more of these, so we'll keep you on your toes. So, features hidden in plain sight. Today we're going to talk about features hidden in SolidWorks Electrical Schematic in the Library tab, in the Document Manager, in the Schematic tab, the Configuration window, and then kind of everywhere miscellaneous spots. So, features hidden in plain sight in the Library tab. The first up, electrical assemblies or super parts. So, we'll take you into SolidWorks Electrical. We'll go into the Manufacturer Parts Manager, and I'm just going to create a super part. What a super part does is it allows you to have a small electrical assembly. So if you have things like a connector, like I'm going to enter in over here, and pins and all the other things that are associated to it, you're allowed to go through and create that as one individual element throughout SolidWorks Electrical. I'm just going to go through now and add all the different parts that I want. I'm going to add a connector, and I'm going to add pins to it. When I'm done there, I've created my super part, or my electrical assembly. I'm going to use my connector tool. I'm going to create a connector with that super part. And you'll see me search for it in the library and come up and find it. Now, these are incredibly helpful for times where you have like a repetitive part that you need to add that has many different parts to it. And it can also be something that you add throughout your entire ecosystem. So you see here I have added, and I have it in my bill of materials. And something new coming down, I can either show it as one individual part, or I can show it as all the parts broken apart as their own individual elements. So for electronic assemblies, like I said before, multiple parts associated to one single manufacturer part. Kind of the cases, fuses, fuse holders, things like that. And then you can choose whether or not you want to have it show up as its own parts or parts of a bill of materials, and that's new for 2020 Service Pack 1. Next up is the symbol editor. We all need to create symbols, right? So one of the new handy things that I really found helpful when going to help customers implement and when doing my own things, in the symbol editor, I can switch the different views of all of my attributes. This helps me better understand the things that I'm adding to my symbol, the things that are going to be part of it, and how it's going to show up. And I can even hide them if I want to be really focused on the geometry itself. The other thing I'm able to do in a symbol like this, where there's a lot of different parts and different terminals, I can very easily switch the number of the terminal that I'm going for. So you guys think of like big PLCs, big controllers, where you have 30 or 40 different terminals. Real easy to switch those around. All right. And the nice thing is I can then display those to the screen and allow those to be shown. So in the symbol editor, I can replace attributes. I can modify the attribute index, and I can change the way the attributes are displayed on the symbol itself. I can change the attribute. I can change to see sample data. I can see it to change the name, and I also can just hide it so I can view the symbol all by itself. The next thing's up, we're going to talk about Terminations Manager, which evidently is easy for me to say this morning. So in this Terminations Manager, what do I want? Sometimes in electrical objects, we care about how our termination is handled. We want to make sure that we handle it correctly in the rest of our schematic. So here I can open up a symbol, very easily go to the attributes, go to the properties of it, and on the manufacturer part, this is all housed on the manufacturer part, I can go and I can assign a termination and endpoint termination to different pins. Now, why is this helpful? It's helpful because we need to know. Maybe it's a ring terminal, maybe it's a push terminal, maybe it's something that's a little bit different than we usually do, and so we want to make sure that we note that and note how we handle all of that information. So when I go back to my schematic, I'm going to do one more thing. I want to see these endpoint end terminations on my drawing. So I want to make sure, because this is a special case, I want to make sure that we go ahead and account for that. So in my symbols manager, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add the terminations to the symbol. Now while I'm doing this, it's handy to note that there are preloaded terminal types in SolidWorks Electrical, but you can also add your own if what's in there isn't suiting you or you need to add something different, much like all the other areas of SolidWorks Electrical. I'll update my symbol, and I'll very easily see that I have my terminals on the symbol. So that's another visual way to add that. And it's also something to go through bill of materials, all of your supporting information. So you can catalog your terminal and your components. You can display your terminations to the schematic. And you can even add additional terminations to the environment. So, features hidden in plain sight in the library tab. We went over electrical assemblies. We went over the symbol editor. We went over the terminations manager. So our next topic, features hidden in plain sight in the documents manager. The first one up is data sheets. So in the data sheets, we'll take a look at what that means. Who here uses their data sheets as their downloads folder? Nobody? Nobody else has that bad habit? Okay. So we're going to add some data sheets here to our symbols. So they're really handy and they're going to be always there for us. So I'm going to open up my symbol manager, go to my part. I'm going to choose the data sheet that I want to attach to it, attach that data sheet. Now that data sheet is part of the library element that I'm always going to be able to go back and find. And that's really important. If I run a bill of materials, I can look at that part, bring out that data sheet, and that data sheet is there for me to see and use when I need to. Very handy. So, this best used for this data sheets, static information, data sheets that never change for your components. It is a library element. So you add it once and it's added to the entire system. It's available to anybody in your environment. It's always connected to the manufacturer part. And it's really convenient to have the component data within the project and not in your downloads folder, which evidently I'm the only one that does that. So, sort of along the same lines of data, oh, there's a question.
When you zip a project, does the data sheet get zipped as well?
It should, yes. Hyperlinks are a little bit different than data sheets, and we'll take a look at what that means. So hyperlinks are meant to be a little bit less static and a little bit more in place. So I want to add a data sheet, I want to add a hyperlink, and it's just an Excel spreadsheet of all the addressing for this particular element, and you'll see that here in a second. Just this particular project, this is all the information that we need for it. So I can do that a couple different ways. The next way I can do it is I can actually add that data sheet as a data file attached to my project, and I can go back to my symbol and I can add it as a hyperlink back. So I can either link to the file itself or I can add that file as a project document and link back there. Same outcome, two different methods to do the same thing. All right, this is important. I think these types of features in SolidWorks Electrical are often overlooked, but I think the ability to add all of the data is really, really important. So the best use for this is project-specific information, things that are only for the project that you're working on. It's not linked to a library. It's just in your project. They can be used on an individual symbol. They can be linked to external files or project documents. So those are our two features hidden in the document manager. We talked about data sheets, and we talked about hyperlinks. Moving on, features hidden in plain sight, things that are hidden in your schematic tab. Insert macro. Who here uses macros? Everybody should be raising their hand. Okay, great. So we're all familiar with macros. I'm just going to create one quick, drag and drop it. And I can use this and pull it back into my system really easily, no big deal. Well, what if a friend, a colleague added a macro? I can use this macros manager very similar to the symbol manager that we've used since day one to insert a macro to search through all the new macros if I don't have it in my context menu and I'm looking for something new. So very handy. It'll let you browse through all of your system macros. You no longer have to add your macro to the macro tab to look for it. And you can more easily use macros created by other users. So this is a way you can really leverage the power of your entire department to create macros and to leverage that information throughout your entire electrical ecosystem. All right, the symbol palette. Who here uses electrical and uses a symbol palette to design things? You can raise more than 2 hands, I know. I know it's almost lunch, guys. So the symbol palette is really handy. I've used it a lot. We use it a lot with our customers to make sure that their design space is the way they want to use it. Solidworks Electrical comes pre-programmed with some elements, but did you know you could also add more elements in your symbol manager tab here? To do that, you just right-click, give a name, and you can search through this manager, which is great, which is the way that we've always done it. But did you know that you could also just drag and drop the symbol into your symbol palette? So if you find that you're using a symbol very often, it's very easy for you just to drag and drop it over into your environment. And really, the benefit of this, you create a more productive workspace. So those were our features hidden in plain sight in the schematic tab. That was our insert macro and our symbols palette. Now you guys have to pay attention on this one. It's a little bit tricky, okay? All right, same question. Who found the Easter egg?
Before you started lifting the lid, it was like a face, a robot face.
R2-D2 and C-3PO. Very good.
Yes. Good eyes.
Yep. Did anybody know these before you saw them here today? Okay. They're pretty common. So moving on, features hidden in plain sight in the project configuration window. So here we're going to talk about nodal indicators. I think this is a great tool. Nodal indicators is a way that you can graphically show wiring intent. So to turn them on, in your project configuration window under the graphics tab, there's just a selection. And all it does is it shows you the wiring intent. If you want to change that wiring intent, you can go and change it to another configuration simply by choosing it, and you'll see the graphic change along with all of the supporting information for that graphic. This is really important, like I said before, to show wiring intent in your schematic. You can change the connection style to actually match what you want to do on the shop floor. If you have some very delicate wiring situations, this is very helpful. And you can use the connections when you change them. They're also reflected in your wiring list as well. So another way just to keep all that information secure and together. The next thing, connection point display. I think we could all have a discussion on how we want to set this up favorably, but we'll just talk about what it is. So we have our connection points, and we're going to go into the project configurations menu again, and we're going to turn them on, and we're going to choose that to show them when there is not a connection made to allow the connection. So what that means is if there's a good electrical connection between your part and your wire, those will disappear. Those of you that use 3D, this is really important for you to understand if your wire is actually connected to your symbol so you have a good result in 3D. You can also choose to show it if it's not connected, and then you can also choose to have them shown all the time or never. So very helpful for those of you that use the 3D, and those of you who just want really good schematic data. So it's a visual indicator for us for a connection between the symbols and the wires. It's helpful when working with 3D to make sure that all of our wires are connected properly. Not that you call up your VAR and say, hey, I tried to route my wires and nothing routed. And they'll say, okay, great, let's go back to your schematic, and you think, what? This is a great way to have that phone call not happen. It's also helpful for full and complete wire from to information. Really make sure that the things that you think that you're wiring are actually getting wired and relayed in that reporting content. All right, unused wires. This one's a little bit difficult of a situation to grasp, so we'll try to do it as best we can. So here you see, I have wires 1, 2, and 3. All right, there's a conflict. I'm going to solve that conflict, so I'm going to change that wire number 3 into wire number 1. All right, so you follow me so far? So we have that wire number 3 is still in question. Well, when I go to my configurations tab, I can tell SolidWorks Electrical to use either that 3 or use the next number in the list. So if I have 5 wire numbers, it's going to either use 3 or 6. In this case, I want it to use 3, and it will. And when I wire my project, you'll see that happens. And you'll see also that the chain of numbers happens along with it. So this is really handy. If you have a sequence of numbers and you deleted a wire, you want to add something, that you can use the next available number instead of the number all the way at the end of the sequence. In this case, the next number would be 4 instead of 8. And it's really useful when you're using equipotential counters and you're moving a lot of wires around. If there's a big redo in your project that you had to do, very helpful for that as well. So, features hidden in plain sight in our project configuration window, nodal indicators, connection point display, and unused wires. All right, guys, last section here, features hidden everywhere. So, update mark. Who here uses marks that have row references to them? Okay. So if you use a mark that uses a row reference, if you go through and you move that mark, that row reference stays the way that it was originally. Okay. So I'm going through just moving my mark, but I'm going to just double click. I want this particular switch here to update to the right row number. And I could use my update marks tool, but if I just want to do this one by itself, all I need to do is switch from manual back to automatic, and that mark will update up by itself automatically, and just do that there. Okay? So it's really nice when components are referenced to a page, and you just want to change one tag. There's less risk of updating something accidentally. Say that this component was something that you added and everything else is already in your machine, in your piece of equipment, and you wanted to go through and make this one correct, you can go and do that without any risk of upsetting the apple cart. It's also to see what the mark implications will be. You can toggle that button, and if you don't like what the mark is or you like how that works, you can hit cancel. It's totally okay, very low risk. All right, this one is my favorite one, okay? So hold on to your seats. This is Verify Project. And what Verify Project does is inevitably in a project, you'll copy and paste something, you'll delete something, you'll move it around, and in the database, there may be elements that have gotten moved, have gotten changed, but not necessarily deleted or purged from the database. What this does is it goes through, purges all those elements to say that everything you have in your project is actually everything that is there in the database. There's also this tool called Purge. This is also handy for going through and purging out elements that your project isn't going to use. So who here has copied in projects symbols from manufacturers, downloaded them? They have layers, they have a whole bunch of garbage in there that you're never going to use. This helps you purge a lot of that stuff out of your project. So, your Verify project. You can clean up ghosted and orphan elements in the database. You eliminate some database overhead. Please, please, please go home, run this on every single template that you have in your environment, okay? The purge project documents, you eliminate unused drawing elements from your project. You reduce the overall file footprint of the project. Again, go home, run this on every single template that you have. You'll be remarkably impressed with what happens. So, features hidden in plain sight everywhere. We talked about updating, mark, and verifying the project. So, in conclusion, we talked about today electrical assemblies, our symbol editor, the terminations manager, data sheets and hyperlinks, inserting macro, the symbol palette, nodal indicators, connection point display, unused wires, update, mark, and verify project. And for those of you that are counting, that is a dozen Easter eggs. Okay? We're not done yet, we're not done. So, to kind of pair on to what Thomas said earlier, we really want you to get just some nuggets of information out of this to help you use SolidWorks Electrical more fully. We want you to use all of the features and functions that are added to it, but we want you to stay curious. We always do what's new. There's always a what's new presentation, but you can really get easily stuck in just keeping with what you've been doing for a couple years. So stay curious when that new version comes out. Take some time to explore what's there. Use the resources that SolidWorks has for you for the what's new. All right, our last brain bender. And you guys this has failed me twice before. So somebody in the audience has to come through on this one, okay? So, does anybody know where the term Easter egg originated from? Yes. Good job, sir. So, Rocky Horror Picture Show is a super crappy B movie that's amazing. It's amazing, but the production quality is not fantastic. The story goes that during the filming of Rocky Horror Picture Show, they filmed it over Easter, and they did an Easter egg hunt on the set. And who here finds every single Easter egg in an Easter egg hunt? I know that doesn't happen in my family. Well, underneath the chair here, you can see that there's an Easter egg, and if you look at other parts of the movie, you can see Easter eggs hidden out throughout the set, and that's where the term Easter egg was coined in this. So, with that, we're happy to answer questions that you guys have, and thank you for your time today.
There you go. Awesome. Oh, and anybody have any questions? No? I'm going to do a plug.
I was going to say, then Thomas is going to do a plug.
So yeah, as I mentioned, we have quite a few electrical offerings going throughout. But me personally, I am putting on these three. I think most exciting to me is the electrical API class that we're doing this afternoon at 4:15. So looking at ways to again to challenge the status quo, thinking outside the box in ways of customizing and automating our software and processes. A couple times, we've heard about Excel automation. So tomorrow I'm doing another class on Excel automation. So that's an hour and a half, pretty good technical deep dive in how to utilize Excel automation. And then Wednesday, I really want to point this out. We are hosting an electrical panel, and this is an industry discussion. We are going to bring on our product managers, product developers, product definition team, the technical managers. Will all sit on stage, and the intent is to field questions from the audience about their use cases, shortcomings, and why. It's not a beat-up session of what we're doing wrong, but more of understanding the why and how this impacts your business and what we can do to make it better. So we are really have an intent of collecting this information from you to continue to better our product over the next couple years. So those are mine, but there's a plethora of other electrical classes out there. Greatly appreciate you guys attending today. Hopefully you found some valuable information, and I expect to see you all at least in these three, if nothing else, the rest of the time. So here's our contact information. If you want to snap a photo, you can reach out to either of us for questions, and on LinkedIn as well for me. And then lastly, the whole tried and true, we need to have you guys do some surveys so they can tell us if we can do this again or not. But yeah, here's a little graphic, showing you where to go. So in the app, you can see it's quite quick. I didn't create it, but you go into surveys, you'll find your class that you want to take and fill that out. So With that, we are finished, and I believe it is lunchtime, right? So let's all get out of here and get some grub.
Yeah, rule number 1 of presenting, never leave people late for lunch.
I know. I cannot believe we did it. 2 minutes early. She trial run this in, what, 35 minutes?
Yeah.
And we were panicked. Oh, no. I tried to go as quickly off this slide as possible. No, I'm just kidding.
And did you guys catch Thomas said the electrical panel? I know that was a pun, but you didn't intend it.
Do what?
The electrical panel?
Oh, right? Yep.
Thursday, Wednesday?
Yep.
See,
But-
folks, electrical puns, they're just everywhere.
They are. Well, again, thank you guys.
Yes, thank you guys
It was
very
a
much.
pleasure, and we'll see you around.